Hi everyone, this is Lauren coming at you from the Break Zone with another deck tech video. This one going over the Wind, Water, Earth Monster Mash deck that was piloted by Andrew Lane to win the RVA Battlegrounds monthly winner box just over a week ago. So congratulations, man. This deck is very interesting. So normally when you think about a monsters deck or the archetype overall, you might the first thought that comes to mind was probably going to be Mono Water Monsters, the one that was, for example, piloted by Maxwell Williams, Jinx Foils, at the Boston Crystal Cup. And normally your game plan is to play out a couple of backups, set yourself real nice for your mid-late game, play a couple of monsters, then you do a one-sided board clear with a Cagnasso into Scholar, returning Cagnasso to your hand, playing it again, one-sided board wipe. So another iteration of a monsters deck would be Wind Water, where people use Veil 4 to return all fours to their owner's hand, and then after that swing in with a monsters for the win. So Andrew here actually went even one step further, and he went for Earth and Light on top of it to get that Shantoto to be able to get whatever element he needs, as well as Ultima to be able to get rid of any forward that might just be too problematic that you don't want them to be able to return to their hand. So another thing you want to notice about this deck is the ratios are different from a conventional deck. It has 6 forwards, 15 summons, 17 backups, and 12 monsters. If you want to count the monsters as forwards, that's like 18 forwards. But conventional decks, normally they kind of float around 24 forwards, 9 summons, and 17 backups. This severely limits the ways that your opponent can interact with your forwards, and that is to your advantage. So this deck is kind of set up so that if the meta is full of people trying to interact with forwards through like combat and other like blocking and everything like that, like this deck has so many ways to kind of get around that I think it's a pretty good contender as being part of the meta. Let's go over some of the cards that Andrew used in order to get that win. Starting off with Realm. You're playing a monsters deck, and with 12 monsters, if you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, I can hardly think of any time like that you will not be able to successfully find a monster there. So whether you want to play her from your hand or you actually flip her into the damage zone, she's going to be great. Next up, we've got Terra. So she's a light forward. She's going to be able to get you that 2 CP discount for Ultima if she's on the field. And with so many summons, sometimes you want just the right answer at just the right time, and she's going to be able to search that out for you. Next up, we've got Gal. So he's able to return most of your monsters from the break zone onto the field, except for Death Gaze and Marlboro. And on top of the fact that you're going to be playing a lot of monsters, he's going to get huge. Next up, we're going to go over some of the summons. So Moogle, if you want to play it from your hand, play him from your hand early game in order to fix your hand, that's great. Or maybe if you hit an EX burst, you draw an extra card. I mean, you really want to push your board state along. And sometimes you're mid to late game and you might have a Cosmos in your hand that you don't really need. Then Moogle is going to be pretty much the only way you get rid of her. And turn her into a card that is much more effective, whether you want to discard it for CP or if it's actually a card that you want to play. Next up, we've got Alexander, who's good against, let's say you have a mirror match with monsters. Go ahead and pick which one you want to break. Or, early game, if there's nothing really on the board and you take damage, draw that card. So, Chaos Walker of the Wheel. Wind Water uses this card so well in combination with Heroic Yuna, being able to choose a forward, break it, and after that remove it from the game so that the second part of this summon does not activate has been a staple since Opus 3. So here it is again, and sometimes, let's say your opponent plays Opus 2 Emperor, Chaos is going to be one of the ways to take care of it. Next up, we have Fanfrit. So early game, as I mentioned, you want to put out backups. And if your opponent is going aggro on you and you have no forwards on the field, Fanfrit is a one-sided board kill, a forward kill. Next up, we got Veil 4, when I spoke earlier about being able to kind of do a board wipe so you could go in for a lot of damage with all your monsters in one turn. Veil 4 is going to be one of your enablers. Atomos it's kind of like it kind of serves the purpose of a 7 CP EX burst Opus 1 Odin from Lightning, being that as long as the forward that your opponent is attacking with requires to dull in order to attack, so if it doesn't have Brave, for example, then Atomos can just straight up break it. On top of the fact that it's Earth, and you need a couple of Earth cards to be able to play that Shantoto. And last but not least for summons, we've got Ultima. So Terra's going to be able to get you that 2 CP discount. And sometimes, like, normally you want to Veil 4 to be able to go for that win, to swing in. But there's times that you don't really want your opponent to be able to replay a specific forward onto the field. Then Ultima might be just a better option. Keep in mind that the way Ultima works is that if you don't have enough cards in your deck to remove when you play her out, and let's say you have 4 cards left in your deck, they have 3 forwards, you Ultima, you don't lose the game for removing more cards from the top of your deck than you have in your deck. But you will lose the game if you draw 1 more card, so be careful about that. Next up, we're going to go over the backups, one of them being Artemisian. If you get it early game, it's a 2 CP water backup that can fix your hand. Next up, we have Cosmos to help you out with playing 3 elements. Echo is a key part of this deck. You're running 15 summons. You might actually have to pitch one that you need mid to late game early on in order to play out your hand to kind of set your backups. Echo is a great play early, mid, late game. Early game because it's 2 CP, mid game because, hey, she's still 2 CP, and late game you're able to get back a summon that you so desperately need. Just the right answer, the silver bullet to take out your opponent. Next up, we've got Fisher. Great early game play, 2 CP, but also you're playing a monsters deck, so Fisher is definitely there for that. So all of your forwards have enter the field abilities, and a couple of your backups, as well as Schrodinger, also do, and Mion is going to be able to recur that for you, to just do it 1 more time, and sometimes that's just enough to push for the win. So Nono, you have 3 copies of Nono in your deck, because Nono is such a key part of this deck. All of your monsters require 1 CP of a specific element, except for Green Dragon being of any element. And so if you activate a monster's ability to turn to a forward and attack, now you get to pick whichever backup you have in order to reactivate that backup and use it to be able to activate the next monster, and do that again and again and again so that all your monsters can go in for that swing. So if you play a Veil 4 on your turn, and let's say you have 4 or maybe like 7 monsters on the field, all of a sudden, hey, guess what? I'm gonna reactivate my backups, and I'm gonna go in for the kill with every single one of my monsters. Next up, we've got Mustadio, who's really good at holding off that early aggro. So Yuna, as we spoke about earlier, works really well with Chaos, but Chaos Walker of the Wheel, but she's also really good in this meta, actually. There's a lot of recursions going on right now. I mean, we're talking about Scholars, Devouts, Opus 5 Zemus, and Urianger, Leak. So all of those little recursion engine that give people so much kind of, you could say, card advantage. Yuna's going to be able to shut that down, and if you ever run into Golbez, you'll make them cry by having Yuna on the field. And Shantoto, still a staple and still great at punishing people that go overly aggressive. Alright, let's go over some of the monsters. Koboloid Yin, 3 of them. 3 of it. This card is so good in so many ways. So, alright. Imagine the board state where somebody has, let's say, let's say you're playing against just the majority of Earth decks. They probably don't even play any forward that is 2 CP or less. If they do, then good for them. But let's say they have a wall and a 2 CP forward, and they hit you, and all of a sudden you flip a Famfrit. Guess what? Now they have to make the decision of, well, do I want to keep a blocker for Koboloid Yin, or do I want to lose my wall? That's really like, well, what do I do? It's not great. So you really start punishing your opponent. The decision that they have to make because of Kobolo Yin and the way your deck works with all your monsters is actually really interesting. Mega Thief is a monster on top of being an Earth card, so if you need it for pitching for Chantodo, it's there. Green Dragon is one of the most versatile, easy to put in monsters in monster decks because, hey, you don't have to actually use a CP of a specific element in order to turn it into a forward. Schrodinger. Oh man, that Podcat in this deck. You want to draw 2 cards or you want to go look for a character in your break zone? That's really up to you because once you set up your deck just the way you like it with Realm and just getting all those monsters out of your deck, Schrodinger is going to either draw you 2 cards or let you pick any character, including, well, forwards, backups, monsters, whatever, from your break zone back to your hand. And also, Schrodinger works with Mion. So if you have Schrodinger and then you play Mion, you'll be able to get back your Schrodinger and play it again. So Death Gaze, keep in mind this deck has no ways, doesn't really have any ways to boost the attack power of your forwards. So besides Realm turning your Kobolo Yin into a 7k or turning Marlboro into 7k as well, most of your forwards, both forwards and monsters are on the smaller size. And if an opponent ever plays a backup that gives plus 1000 power to their forwards, all of a sudden Death Gaze just becomes almost unblockable. I mean, most people like to play those value cards. We always talk about a curve. So if somebody's playing like a 3 CP forward, most likely is going to be a 7k forward. I mean, very few are going to be smaller than that. And then you add the 1000 power boost from the backup, and all of a sudden that's a 8000 and Death Gaze is going to get right under it. And if your opponent is thinking, you know what, I'm going to keep a bunch of 7000 power forwards in order to be able to block Marlboro, to be able to block Death Gaze, Marlboro is going to be able to punish them for that because if Marlboro goes against a 7k, it's just going to eat it right up. So hopefully you like this deck. It looks very interesting. Congratulations again to Andrew Lane for winning that box and putting together this amazing deck. So to keep in mind, to remind you guys, we're still running a giveaway. So whenever we hit 500 subs, and at the point of this recording, I think we're at 494. So we just need a couple more in order to give you the choice of getting this lightning plushie or this Horizon Canopy. When we hit 500 subs, we'll pick one of our subscribers at random, and they get to pick between those 2 prizes, and we'll ship it out to them. So there's that. Also, remember to check out our sponsor, MagicTechGames.com, where, well, if you need any Final Fantasy TCG singles, go ahead and check them out. They're really great. So thank you very much for checking in, and catch you next time.